Sideman. Today we're talking with our friend, multi-instrumentalist, arranger, composer, Jim Hoke.
Hey Dave.
How are you, Jim?
I'm doing great.
Good,
glad to have you over.
We're going to get right to the meat today. We're going to ask Jim, right off the bat, what do you think makes a great sideman, Jim?
Well, a great sideman. There are two types of sidemen in the studio. Now, just from the studio standpoint, you got your specialist. That's a guy who does one thing really well and he's known for it. Like, say, Matt Gaydon, who invented the wah-wah slide thing that J.J. Cale made popular.
Yeah.
That was his thing.
Yeah.
And so he would get calls to do specifically that. And he did it great. And other specialists, you know, you can imagine there's a guy who plays great high notes on the sax, say, you know, certain style. So you got the specialist kind of guys, or stylists. And then you got more general guys like me and Charlie McCoy, who play a lot of instruments and a lot of styles. And what we have to do is be a chameleon and quickly figure out, what's this style? What's going on with this song? What can we bring to it that'll feature the song and the vocal performance rather than our part? And it's usually something really, really simple. It's not about showing off your chops. It's about hearing the whole thing and finding a place in the song to do the one element that you're going to provide and do it concisely and then not be there. And it's usually harder than it seems.
I'm sure it is, yeah. You, can you run down, as a multi-instrumentalist, can you, like, you know, just run down the types and different kinds of instruments that you may be called on to play at any time?
Sure. It's either sax solos with optional writing the charts. I'm often called on to write a horn chart, and they'll want like a Memphis horn sounding thing for an R&B type song. I do a lot of harmonica stuff on more Americana and country sounding stuff. Although harp is not so in fashion anymore. I've started playing pedal steel seriously.
Yeah.
I'm getting some calls on that. Not strictly country. I do a lot of pop stuff and non-country music on the steel. And the odd stuff like penny whistle and accordion. I'm a bad enough accordion player that I'm good in the studio. So I'm not going to overplay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I do a lot of this. Bass harmonica, I'll do a lot of
Is the bass harmonica on a lot of records? So is there a lot of call for that?
Every single record has a bass harmonica. No. Only if someone's doing a cover of The Boxer, I suppose.
Yeah.
No, but once in a while somebody will have like a swampy track.
Yeah.
And I'll take the Jews harps, you know, and maybe this. So I do a lot of, this comes under the thing of texture, weird
sound.
color textures.
Yeah.
You know, bass clarinet, alto flute, stuff like that. And I do a fair amount of that kind of wacky stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Is there any? It's fascinating to me, the saxophone and the pedal steel. Is there any correlation here?
None whatsoever.
None whatsoever.
Except melody is melody.
Yeah.
A pretty melody on a saxophone, if you play it on pedal steel, it's going to have a different drift. The notes are going to be shaped differently. They'll glide more on the steel. But it's all notes. If anything, the pedal steel, I bring my piano savvy to the steel as far as chords and combinations of notes.
So, Jim, as a multi-instrumentalist, at some point when you were just starting out, was there one particular instrument that you played and then kind of gravitated towards the other instruments, or did you have a calling to play many instruments at once?
It was a succession of infatuations with certain musical styles, starting with Dixieland jazz. My parents had some cool Dixieland jazz records. And my dad loved the clarinet, and he used to rave about it. So I wanted to win my dad's approval. Hey, Dad, watch this. So I started clarinet lessons, and I do love the clarinet in jazz.
Yeah.
And I never thought Dixieland was corny music. It was not pizza parlor, rah-rah. Dixieland was hip stuff in my mind. So it started with the clarinet in about 6th grade or so. Schenectady music lessons at the Accordion Center. And from there, my older brother turned me on to his Duane Eddy records, rock and roll.
Yeah.
And since the saxophone was the main thing in Duane Eddy music, the sax fingers a lot like the clarinet, so that was a logical, easy step from clarinet to sax. And then along came the British invasion, and I saw the Rolling Stones on TV, and there was Brian Jones playing I Just Want to Make Love to You with a harmonica. Ding! Oh, harmonica. So I totally forgot the clarinet and the sax for a few years and got on the harmonica. And then everyone was playing Beatles songs on the guitar.
Yeah.
So I had my friends show me some guitar. And then a piano came into the house so that my baby sister could take piano lessons so that when she was a mommy, she could play piano in the home. Well, she hated the piano, but I wouldn't get off the seat, teaching myself Beach Boy songs in the key of F sharp. The only key I could ever play.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, Irving Berlin.
Or G
The guy
flat.
showed me the shape of F sharp. All black notes.
Yeah.
It's hard to go wrong.
Yeah.
So that was pretty much the progression there.
Yeah. And when did the pedal steel come into the picture?
I got bit by the steel bug when Sweetheart of the Rodeo came out, the first country rock album, and Lloyd Green's great steel parts on the Byrds country record.
Yeah.
I thought, wow, country, yeah. So that was it for me. And I got a steel back then in the early 70s. Messed around on it for a while. Quickly realized it was a lifetime commitment and I wasn't ready to make it, so I set it aside. But then about 10 years ago, I got the bug again and picked it up, and I haven't been able to leave it alone since.
Okay, Jim, I wanted to ask you about how you prepare for sessions and that kind of a thing. I know you have an incredible work ethic, and I remember one time you did a session for our mutual pal Joe Croker, who is a bit of a Renaissance man, and I think it was kind of a 1930s-esque song, and the track was already cut. We cut it at my house, and you came in and methodically set up, had you written out music for 3 or 4 parts. I don't remember exactly. I know there was a clarinet involved, some kind of a saxophone, and maybe a harmonica, but whatever it was, it was so great how organized you were and how you had arranged this ahead of time and knew what was going to work perfectly. You played all 4 tracks, bim, bam, boom, and it was done, and it was flawless. And it was just, I was so impressed.
Well, I really enjoy arranging.
Right.
And it's a luxury when I do get to do it in advance. Like you probably sent me a track.
Yes.
And I could listen to it, and then at my leisure, I worked out the parts. And so I was able to arrange it. And arranging is nothing more than making a choice about chords, harmony.
Sure.
Somebody, you're in the studio, you yourself as a guitar player, you'll be arranging. Somebody says, play a C chord. Well, do you want it here? Do you want it here? Do you want it here? Or what? That's just arranging.
Choices.
So, I got to whip up these parts and bring them in. And if you're prepared, it just takes no time at all because I've already worked it out.
And mood-wise, it fit perfect. It wasn't just that the parts fit together, but it was the exact mood that he was trying to capture. You nailed it.
Well, since you asked, let me bring up another
You got
example of my arranging.
Cool.
One of my hobbies is making albums, and I made an album called Orchestra Tropical, and I took pre-rock and roll songs and arranged them up kind of exotica style. And here's the old Benny Goodman song, "The World is Waiting for the Sunrise." And I've got a nice little interlude between my box percussion instrument and an ensemble. I think it's clarinet, flute, and vibes. I love that color.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of Goodman inspired. So we enter this from the Barry solo, and then it's going to bring us to this exchange here. I'm playing all the instruments in
Jim, you and I are from the same neck of the woods, which would be NRBQ country, the great Northeast.
NRBQ, yes.
You've been associated with them since like the mid-'80s and done a lot of work with them as a group and individually. Can you tell us a little bit how that all came together?
It's been amazing. I first saw NRBQ at a place called the Aerodrome in Schenectady, my hometown. It was Woodstock weekend.
I've been to the Aerodrome.
I bet you played the Aerodrome.
I played the Aerodrome.
Well, my friends and I could have gone to Woodstock that weekend. So we went to the Aerodrome to see my friend's band from Albany, a soul band, old school, matching suits. Well, they were opening for this crazy bunch of hippies, barefoot guys with hair down to here that were playing everything from space jazz by Sun Ra to the Everly Brothers with loving care and passion, whatever the music was. And bing, it opened my eyes.
Yeah.
And then I caught up with them when I was living out on the West Coast. I was in Santa Barbara. I knew they were doing a West Coast tour in the 80s, and I brought them to town. I rented a hall, rented a sound company at the Empty Space Theater in Santa Barbara, and had my band open up. And that's how I got to meet them, and one thing led to another, and pretty soon I was sitting in with them next time they came through town, and then they're bringing me up to New England to play on some live records, and I'd go around and play some of the bigger gigs like the Bottom Line in New York, and like that, and it's just been an amazing experience. They're my heroes.
Wasn't there a reunion not too far back? There was a show at the Bottom Line or something like that. Were you at that?
There's been several reunions.
Yeah.
25-year, 30-year, where they bring back the original guys, Steve Ferguson, the original guitar player, Tom Staley, who lives in Florida, the original drummer. Terry's philosophy is that if you were ever in the band, you're still in NRBQ.
That's great.
Ready? Clap, clap, clap. I'm going to count it in 1, 2, 3.
So, looking at your credits, pretty incredible, and they're all over the place. So, I want to ask you about two that are at the complete opposite end of the spectrum to somebody looking at that, but maybe you would interpret that differently, and that would be Burt Bacharach and James Cotton.
Well, Burt Bacharach has a guy in Nashville who produces demos for him. And it's a young guy that wasn't even born, when all the big Dionne Warwick hits. Anyway, Burt sends songs to this guy, and he produces demos. But Burt has a lot of input, and he told the guy, I want a chromatic harmonica on this song. And I want it to play these notes this kind of way with this phrasing. And it all went well, and I talked the guy into sending Burt a CD that I had made of all his songs. And the guy did, in fact, send it to him. I didn't think he would.
Yeah.
And so Burt calls me up on the phone later. You want to hear his answering message to me?
Yes.
Listen to this.
You have 14 old messages. Sunday, 7/27.
Oh, this is John Sebastian first.
Hey, Jim, John Sebastian, just checking in.
Name dropping here. Now here's Burt.
5/17.
Burt's number 2.
Jim, it's Burt Bacharach. I love the album cover of that CD that you sent, but I can't play the record. It won't play.
He said it won't play.
Tuesday,
I sent him a tape,
p.m.
a CD, and it was.
Demonstrate
How do I turn this on?
I don't know, it's yours.
Message deleted. Thursday message.
I'll just turn it down. So I sent Bert. So this whole thing is set up for me to send Bert this wonderful CD I poured my heart on, and he goes, "Jim, there's nothing on this. You messed up. Send me the album again. I want to hear it. This time, make sure it gets on there."
Oh, that's great.
So I did, and he called me back, and we had a nice little chat. It was great.
Nice. Yeah.
What we got?
And you know, James Cotton, he was like around Woodstock a lot, wasn't
Oh
he?
yeah, that's right.
And I saw him a number of times growing up,
Oh, did you?
playing up there. I love James Cotton. And how did harmonica again?
No, piano. He was touring, and he came out to Santa Barbara, where I used to live,
Yeah.
from 80 to 85. Beautiful Santa Barbara, California. And there was this blues venue that would bring blues artists to town, and they do a gig, probably on their way from LA to, wherever. And they were bringing in the old cats, Big Joe Turner, Pee Wee Creighton. All these guys would come play. What the heck was the name? Some Spanish-sounding name of this venue. And some of the local guys would back these guys up sometime. And some piano player bailed, and I got to play my little attempt at blues
Keys.
piano. Yeah, I tickled the ivories with James. It was great. I like to go around the yard sales on Saturday mornings because in a town like Nashville, you're going to find a lot of cool musical stuff. Like this temple cymbal here. $10. Or there's the time I got this zither and this woodblock for $8 for the pair.
I'll give you a 9 right now.
Let me see the green. Now this is that's a beautiful sound, which I'm going to show you how I used it in a recording in a minute. This wood block thing I love. It's like the temple blocks on Pet Sounds. You've all seen those. So those two instruments are featured heavily on a project I did called Exotic Sounds in Country Music, featuring Christy Rose. I took a bunch of classic country songs and arranged them up with exotica trappings, and now you're going to hear the mighty zither and the box in this version of Lonely Street.
I'm looking for that lonely street. I've got a sad tale to tell. I need a place to go and read. Where's this place called Lonely Street? A place where there's just lonely.
Exotic Sounds in Country Music.
Is there an instrument laying around that you could maybe play the Sideman theme on?
Oh, quite possibly, Dave. Let's see.
How about the ocarina?
Perfect.
I thought you'd never ask. How about a little...
Yay!
Now, speaking of the ocarina, why don't we do the one rock and roll song that has an ocarina solo on
And
it?
what song is that?
Well, we can't name that.
Okay,
Well,
let's do it.
What
key?
It's in the key of E for you.
Okay, I'll play this
So
key.
it goes a little something like this.
Jim, it was really good to see you again, pal.
Oh man, thanks for asking me to be on.
Yeah, thank you for
too.
your time.
Great job. What a talent. Jim Hoke, ladies and gentlemen. Find him online.
George Marinelli, Dave DeRocher. Signing off.
How about James?
That's where the light finishes now.
Let me. Sorry.
Probably us out there. Hey, Jim, let us in. We're outside the park.
Is that going to work?
Message deleted. Tuesday. Message deleted. Friday. Message deleted. End of messages.